Hello everyone, today's video is going to be extremely critical if you really want to improve your chess game. Today we are going to discuss a opening or a trap, a sequence of trap that really happens in majority of the game if you are a club level player or even perhaps in the master level games. This trap is simply an amazing one. After watching this video, you're definitely going to check out and going to play this particular opening and going to score some heavy crazy points. So I don't want to waste any further time because this video is going to be extremely critical. So let's quickly jump right into the video. So coming to the trap, we are playing with the white pieces and we start the game with 1 e4. Our opponent plays the standard and the most popular move e5. Knight to f3. Attacking the pawn on e5, black defends it by playing knight c6, and we play the move knight to c3, also known as the two knights opening. Opponents do the same thing, developing the knight, and we have a symmetrical position on the board. And here, the most common way to play is to perhaps develop the bishop to b5 or perhaps to c4. So, these are the most common moves in this particular position. But we are going to surprise our opponent by playing the move a3. And this move is actually an exclamation mark because it is a very interesting move to be true. After a3, what is the idea of a3? The idea of a3 here is, black's idea is usually to play the move bishop to b4 and attack the knight on c3. So we are playing the move a3 in order to stop the move bishop to b4. And here, after taking away the option of playing the move bishop b4, now black is having a good option to play the move bishop to c5, which is the most common way to play. Bishop to c5. And this is exactly what we wanted. Now we are going to capture the pawn on e5. And here, there are two ways for black to continue the game. He can either go for simply capturing the knight, or black can be smart to take the pawn on f2. Let's discuss both of the options. For example, if black plays the move knight into e5, our idea is to play the move d4. That is the reason black can sacrifice the bishop, and after knight into e5, after d4, the bishop is no longer hanging and now white castle is also broken. So perhaps it should be good for black. But actually it's extremely bad for black because now white is having a pure center control and a good position, despite white lost his castling rights. After d4, definitely black is going for the move knight to g4 check, as following the rule of check captures threat. And now we are going to play the move king to g1. And after king g1, white's idea is to push the pawn to e5, attacking the knight and followed by capturing the knight on g4. So black plays the move d6 in order to stop the move e5 obviously. And here we are going to play the move h3. Simply kicking the knight to h6, the only move, and now we are going to develop our bishop to g5. After bishop g5, as you can see, we are simply focusing on developing our pieces, and the idea is to play the move e5. So after bishop g5, definitely black is going to think that bishop into h6 can be an idea. So let's try to simply pull the knight back in order to, for example, if white captures, black is having the option of capturing the bishop with the knight. That is the reason black puts the knight to g8, and now if you try to pay attention, you will realize how the knight from b8 simply came to g8 after going through this long journey, which is extremely bad idea. And after knight g8, you can simply play the move e5. We have a pawn trade, black will definitely trade off the queens, and now if we try to discuss, if black plays a move like knight h5 because the knight was hanging, it's a mate in 1. So black can't really move the knight. The only thing he can do is put the knight to d7 in order to stop the move rook to d8 checkmate. But here we are having even better, knight to b5, a very powerful move. After knight b5, as you can sense, knight into c7 is coming up and there is no really good way to protect it. For example, after knight into e5, knight into c7 check, the rook is hanging, and after checking f8, you can even checkmate your opponent after rook d8 checkmate. So this is the way you can have checkmate black king if black goes for playing the move bishop into f2. If black goes for playing the move knight into e5 at the place of capturing the pawn, we are going to play the move d4. And after d4, black is having two good options to continue the game. He can either capture the pawn with the bishop, or he can either go back to d6, which is the best move. If he goes for capturing the pawn, which looks like a very normal way to continue the game, we capture the queen, and he plays the move knight to c6, hitting the queen. We come back with the queen. And now if you try to count the material is even. So what's happening? We are having an advantage because after queen to d3, for example, if black simply castle, which is the best move and the most natural way to play, we simply develop our bishop to g5, pinning up the knight. And here black plays the move like h6, trying to kick the bishop. We simply happily comes back to h4. After bishop h4, black plays the move d6 in order to open up the light square bishop and also to stop the move e5 that can come into the future. After d6, we simply do a long castle, which is extremely good move, practically speaking up. After short castle, now how to continue the game is our main question. We can continue the game by simply playing the move f4 in order to stop the move g5 that black can play in the future. And then after f4, we are going to play the move knight to d5, putting pressure on the knight f6, and eventually we are going to simply win the game. So it's extremely hard for black to continue the game. So perhaps black will play the move g5 in order to kick the bishop. We can happily come back to g3, and now our idea is just simply undermine black's king side by playing the move h4, trying to open up the king by playing h4, capturing on g5, queen d2, queen e3, hitting the pawn on g5, and the position is completely winning, practically speaking up. So you can see how this variation is completely winning, and it is so easy for black to lose the tracks of the game. So this is how white is going to play if black plays the move bishop into d4. Now let's try to discuss what happens if black plays the move, the best move, bishop to d6. After bishop d6, we are going to play the move f4. Black is thinking that if white captures the knight, black is going to capture the pawn, and the position is actually fine for black because black retains the bishop pair. But that's our main idea. We complicate the position by playing the move f4. And now our idea is to capture the knight on e5, followed by hitting both the minor pieces and winning a piece in the end of the day. So after f4, black comes back to g6, and now what we play? We push the pawn to e5. Black is like, fine, I'll go back. If you now try to capture my knight, I'm going to capture with the bishop, and my position is extremely fine. We are like, okay, let's try to push the pawn to f5. I'm not going to capture the knight, but I'm going to attack another knight. And now the idea is to capture the knight, and once the bishop captures it, we are going to capture another piece, and eventually we are going to be a piece up. So after f5, black is going to move the knight to f8, trying to come back, which is a very dull move, but that's the only option. After knight f8, we can happily capture the knight now. After bishop takes, we can simply develop our bishop to c4, and you can already sense the power of the f5 pawn, how it is simply restricting the black's knight from coming to g6 or even e6. And the position is completely winning for white, like a very good position. You can see how black's all pieces are stuck at the last rank. And white side is pretty common. He wants to castle, he wants to put the rook on e1 and open file, and the position is completely winning. There is a game played by even a grandmaster which simply went wrong. Black played the move c6. From the black pieces, it was grandmaster. White can simply short castle. That's exactly what black did. Black pushed the pawn to d5 in order to hit the bishop and also opening up the bishop. We give a check. Bishop protects it, and now we play the move bishop to g5. If you capture the bishop, I don't know, maybe bishop into e7 is simply winning. If you move the queen, I can simply come back with the bishop, giving a check, and the game is over. So f6 is kind of the only move, and now we play the move queen to h5 check. g6 the only way. Pawn takes, and if you try to capture with the pawn, you lose the rook. So you cannot do it. So after knight into g6, simply bishop into f6 comes in. You cannot capture the bishop because the bishop is simply pinned, and the game is over. Even the rook is hanging up, and if you try to move the rook, I can happily even capture the bishop. You cannot capture the bishop because the knight is pinned, and the game is lost eventually for black. So this is how white can simply crush black if black goes for playing the move bishop to d6. And that's it for today. I want to discover an important move. Like after knight to c3, even if black doesn't go for playing the move knight f6 and plays the move bishop to c5, which is also very common, now you can simply play the move knight into e5, capturing the pawn, knight into, and you can still play the move d4, a very strong move, and the position is completely, it's like the same variation we checked it out. So yeah, this was all for today. I think that this video might have, definitely would have, helped you to increase your knowledge. And these are some very common chess traps that even 7 lakh people have fallen for. And this is a trap worth trying out in your games. So I hope that this video might have helped you to improve your game. If it did, then make sure to like the video, share this video with everyone, and make sure to subscribe to our channel if you are new to our channel. I'm going to come up with these interesting videos like this to help you improve your chess level skill. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Oneshot Chess.